go ahead and move on to our 615. I guess I should have said we needed 4/5 vote for that, but we got the 4/5, so we're good. Our 1:15 p.m. A, consideration of letter requesting support from State Department of Water Resources. B, approval of resolution authorizing the grant application, acceptance, and execution for the Potter Valley Project Decommissioning Lake County Water Supply Impact and Technical Assessment, authorizing the chair to sign. And we have Mr. Rothstein and Mr. Sullivan. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Board. Matthew Rothstein, Chief Deputy County Administrative Officer. The California Department of Water Resources has regularly met with county staff and Supervisors Crandall and Sabatier over the past several months to discuss potential consequences of PG&E's Potter Valley Project decommissioning proposal. Recently, DWR identified available funding for Lake County to examine the potential water supply effects that would result if Lake Pillsbury were lost. Approximately $700,000 is available to conduct a technical assessment to estimate the effects of the decommissioning process, including dam removal, and evaluate potential adaptations, provide cost estimates, and evaluate other strategies for implementing mitigations. The information that this assessment would provide is critical for upcoming state and federal proceedings pertaining to the proposed decommissioning and could inform decision-making for applicable bodies and other interested parties. The county must approve a letter requesting support before DWR can proceed any further in the grant process. At this time, the proposal is in the preliminary stages, and the expectation is that it will continue to be refined, working with DWR. In addition to the letter, the DWR grant requires an authorizing resolution. The resolution language that was put before your board has been vetted by DWR, and so staff's recommendation is to continue use of that proposed language. You will have also seen both documents, the letter and the resolution were included in your board's agenda packet, and there's more detail in the letter in terms of what the work is expected to entail. One final note of explanation, the categories that were used in the task description portion of the letter are left intentionally broad, and that's, as previously alluded, in consideration of the fact that we will be continuing to work with DWR to further refine the specific work to be undertaken. Staff recommends that your board approve the letter and adopt the resolution and authorize the chair to sign both documents. And many thanks to our Treasurer Tax Collector, Patrick Sullivan, for his tremendous support of the county's pursuit of this funding opportunity.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sullivan, do you have anything to add?
No, I would just add, similarly, the language in the letter was also vetted through DWR staff. There was considerable back and forth to make sure that we got everything in there that they needed. There are very particular points that had to be highlighted because of the nature of this funding. So, similar to the resolution, I would just encourage your board to understand that the letter is just a starting point. DWR made that clear. This is what they need to proceed, and we can refine the rest of it later. We didn't have time to go any deeper without further assistance.
And we needed to also rush. There was a deadline to meet before in order to access funds because of the fiscal year deadline. Vice Chair Crandall?
Yes. No, I just wanted to, just highlight that I appreciate all the work that, we've all been putting into this, of course, and even the board, because since I've been on dealing with this in the district and whatnot, we've been asking for this information in general. This is what we've been asking even at the two-basin solution and everything like that. So, we're finally at a point where we can get some of this and get some of the answers we need, or at least have some explanation. And so, but the work that you two put into it, you're the tax collector now, and you're still helping us, and we appreciate that, Matthew. Great job all the time coordinating this. And so, this is important, and I'm glad that we're moving forward with it.
Yeah, no, actually, I'm really excited about the teamwork. In order to get to this point, this conversation was taking a left turn, and we brought it back exactly where we needed it to. It was difficult, and we thought we actually had lost access to this type of grant, and suddenly things changed and turned around for us, and we moved fast in order to get this on the agenda to make sure that we don't miss this access. This is exactly based on the last presentation that Vice Chair Crandall and I gave to the Russian River Forum about our concerns about if the dam is decommissioned and its impacts not just to Lake County, obviously, but its impacts downstream to the water users, agricultural users, and the fish. And that data has been lacking, and yet things are still moving forward with the momentum that it's okay to do this without knowing all the data. And so I think that having the data will help us to better understand, be better prepared, and possibly continue to have what we want to keep in the future. We'll see what happens with that. So, Supervisor Green.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate this. Probably is worded purposefully broad, but I think that's my concern with this letter is the breadth of it. On page 2 of the letter, under the proposed scope of work B, I see baseline conditions plus 1 or 2 decommissioning scenarios. This board has previously gone on record opposed to decommissioning, so I think it's important to do this kind of work, but I guess my question is the breadth. How much breadth can we put in at this early phase of this? Because definitely we have to look at all the scenarios that have been presented, but I'm counting at least 4 scenarios, and I'm seeing maybe 1 or 2 or 3 in here. So if this is as titled, basically a study of decommissioning, that's one thing, but if we're looking for modeling of existing conditions, such as, for example, status quo with the gates lowered, with or without the seismic risk in there, the status quo with the gate ladders, possibly with a fish ladder improvement. In previous iterations in the 2-basin solution, I think talk of partial decommissioning was raised by Sonoma Water. And then, of course, there are 2 scenarios proposed in the decommissioning plan presently, and one is a rapid removal, and the other one would be a phased removal over a period of years with some amount of sediment deposit involved in that. So again, I want to be supportive. I know you guys put a lot of work into this, but if this is as billed, basically a study focused on decommissioning and decommissioning only, I don't want to undervalue this grant's ability to study some project alternatives that we have talked about for years here at this board, including saving the dam in some fashion. So do I understand this as a decommissioning-centered effort that would preclude by default any notion of studying of keeping the current baseline operations?
Would you like to respond to that, or would you like one of us to respond?
I can briefly respond, just that, as Patrick raised, the scope is not final. In this iteration, we hear your feedback, and I can't promise you what flexibility will be provided later in the process, but I don't know if Patrick has any further comment.
Yeah, in conversations with GWR, they also raised the possibility of working with one of their consultants to help craft the final agreement and refine this more. So this really is just sort of a very broad draft. This is what they believe they can accommodate with our funding. So I don't know. I don't know how in-depth we'll be able to go on any one topic. I think this is broad enough. I don't think it's really precluding anything. But yeah, in terms of the language that's here, this is what was developed to fit the available funding, and I really don't have answers to your questions beyond that.
So I will say that I think you're looking at eating the entire elephant at the same time rather than taking a bite out of the elephant. In order for us to have the data to better understand what others are planning, because this is not our plan, we have to be able to have apples to apples and not apples to oranges. And so having a study that completely defers to what is being planned will not allow us to approach FERC in the appropriate way with the appropriate data to say, this is a flawed idea or this is flawed thinking. Here's the data that we have. You got to think about the 10-year droughts. You got to think about the 10-year floods. How is this going to work in this case? Now, I know that you see a lot of words that say decommissioning, but the whole conversation began because of the term climate change and the idea of what is the true hydrology of the area, because we can't rely on the idea, oh, 1920, here's a picture, here's what it looked like. If the dam goes away, it's going to look exactly the same. The world is not that same place. Things are vastly different. And so we need to better understand what exactly is going to be there to support our needs, to support the other communities' needs that are impacted by it. And that, to me, is the perspective of how we're approaching this, because FERC doesn't want to see us submit a new plan. We're past that point. FERC wants to see us speak to the plan that has been submitted. PG&E is not going to submit a plan about adding a fish ladder. And so we need to provide data about what PG&E's plan will or will not do and where our concerns lie. So I think this fits perfectly, but it's step one out of multiple steps that can come out of the data that we are able to identify. I don't know if that helps, but that's my perspective on it, is this is a multi-step plan, not a one step and we're done, we have everything we need.
I think that I think it's vague enough to cover any adjustments that we need and if they'll allow. So I understand what you're saying, though, Supervisor Green. With what we've been in the past, most recent couple months, we've been really accentuating some opposition and specific decommissioning. However, with this, I know decommissioning is mentioned a lot, like Supervisor Sabatier said or Chair Sabatier said. But at the same time, one or two decommissioning scenarios kind of like is broad enough in case, you know, you've talked about partial decommissioning and other things like that. I think that gives us enough leeway. And I think it's just better to stay kind of in a vague situation for this until we can get further and find out what you know, we can identify further if needed. I don't know, that's just my opinion.
I would add the underlying basis for this funding, the reason the state's able to provide it, is the potential loss of water supply. That is what actually is our gateway into this. So we had to articulate why we are facing a potential loss of water supply. Once that loss is identified, we were able to expand the scope of this and roll in these other areas we want to look at. But the underlying issue that's actually making us eligible for the funding is the potential loss of water supply that would come with the destruction of Lake Pillsbury and the decommissioning. So that's our gateway into this, just to clarify where this funding is coming from.
Okay. Hopefully that helps in answering some of your questions. Any further comments or questions from the board? Open it up for public comment. Any comments on this item? Please come on up.
So this will not close any doors to being able to try to keep the lake, is that correct? We're not closing the doors.
Our plan A is to keep the dam and keep the lake, and we are standing strong on
Okay,
that.
I just want to make sure the verbiage.
What was your name?
My name is Helen Owen, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Just making sure. We didn't hear that, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? And seeing none, bringing it back for action.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve letter requesting support from the State Department of Water Resources. So I got to do them separately, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So do the letter first, right?
So we have a motion?
Yeah.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
I offer the resolution.
The resolution's been offered.
Supervisor Crandall.
Aye.
Supervisor Green.
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska.
Yes.
And Supervisor Sabatier.
Aye.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.